everything in between. Like, I don't. All right, the wheels are still spinning. Things are firing up and starting.
Yeah.
I haven't
Is this
seen
the old
anything go
office
live.
space?
Yeah, so this is the old war room. I even the last remnant is the little, okay, we are live on Instagram, but the last remnant is my war room neon sign here. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I moved that to my office, but I don't know. It's kind of a nice thing, but we did turn it into the kids lounge. So now we've got 3 Haida beds,
Nice.
gaming console and stuff like that. So,
What kind
oh,
of PlayStation or
oh, dude, I did the thing where I got them the 64 Nintendo games, Super Nintendo games on one thing, and it's
yeah?
all retro stuff. So they don't have any PS5s or anything like
Right on.
that. So,
It's a good place to start.
absolutely. Okay. All right. We are live on Instagram. I believe we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well. Hey, everybody. Special edition. Thursday night, Ask a Painter Live. I'm here with my friend Dirk. Dirk and I are going to do something very special tonight, which is I'm turning the show over to him, and he is going to interview me. And he showed me his pages of notes. I am an open book, but this makes me nervous. So
Good.
yeah,
You should be.
I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you. I hope I'm in good hands. I know I'm in good hands. You're
You're
a
in
good
good
one.
hands.
You're
You're in
you're
good
not
hands.
only a peer of mine, you're a Minnesota painter. So Dirk, I'm just gonna turn this thing over to you. For all the people who don't know you, give people a little background. Who are you? What do you do? And why are we doing what we're doing tonight?
I am Dirk Vermeulen. I am from the Netherlands. I moved to the Minnesota, 10 years ago now, to be with my wife. I met a girl from Minnesota and I moved over here and I started the painting company because I did that back home already.
Oh
And the
man.
US could always use some good painters. And we're
Yes.
here tonight because I asked Nick a question and he said yes. I don't know why he said yes, but we'll figure that out.
Oh, I like to get myself into unknown situations and then just deal with it. And
Right on, right on.
I know this is going to be an absolute blast. So I'm just
Uh-huh.
going to turn it over to you, man. The time is yours, and
Thank
do with
you.
it as you please.
Well, Nick Slavik, welcome to your own show.
Thank you.
Nick Slavik, a painting and restoration company, 15 years in Minnesota. 15?
17.
Oh, 17.
Yep.
Yeah, see, bad preparations. Welcome. Everybody else, welcome too. Good evening. Goeie avond voor alle Nederlandse kijkers hier. Ik hoop dat er een paar zijn. Most people here will know who you are, Nick. But for the off chance that I drag a lot of people into this life, I don't know if that's the case or not, but maybe it is. They probably don't know you then. And they probably are wondering, who is this guy? And why did he start painting? So why did you start your own business, Nick?
Yeah. So interesting story. I'm sure a couple viewers of Ask a Painter have heard it, but I actually started painting with my father when I was about 10 years old, dabbling in it. And I progressed through all the things that you do. Mom did the books. My brother painted with me as well, too. And I basically just I was my father's tutelage for all those years. I learned the craft of it. I was very energized by it. It fit with my personality well. I left for 4 years for the Army. I came back, I got a college education, and I was basically working with my father the entire time, saying like, hey, what does this family business need? What can we do? I tailored an entire bachelor's degree and a double minor to running a trades-based family small entrepreneurial business. And when I came back and I basically said, let's get after it here, he basically told me there's no place for me. So 6 months later, 17 years ago, last month, I started my own business. And it was a pretty crazy time in life. I had just gotten married. My father didn't show up to my wedding. My wife got pregnant. I started a business, and I just graduated college, and we were just starting life. Everything was starting at once.
So why did your dad say there was no place for you? Did he give a reason, or there was just no place, or?
No, interesting character. Love my father dearly. It was his decision.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I went through a very emotional discussion. It was like him, my mom, my brother, my wife to be at the table in my old historic house. We had like the family summit. I had graduated college. I was a
Hmm.
really good craftsperson at this time. I had military behind me, and I was ready to just get after it and start leaving some legacy and stuff.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to sell me a part of the business. He didn't want me to help run it behind the scenes. And in the end, he wouldn't even put my brothers and my name on the trucks. He wouldn't even call it Slavic and Sons or, you know, something
It
like
would have
that.
looked so good.
Dude, listen, I got 4 kids. If any of them want to work with me, which is a
Yeah.
life goal of mine, my lord, I would change my name in a second. I would have so much pride in saying Slavic and Daughters Painting. Like that would be Slavic and Sons Painting. It would be one of the greatest achievements that a father could do is bring
Right.
your kids into the entrepreneurial stuff. And I think I don't know this, right? My father and I haven't talked in a lot of years, but I think it was just one of those things where he's just going to do what he's going to do.
Yeah.
He kind of was in a safe position. I think, I don't know. I think his plan was, well, Nick can paint and I'm just going to not work anymore. And I mean, listen, I have both of my minors are in accounting.
So
Uh,
that
I,
was that was an option. You could stay in the business, but like no real role, just like be a laborer.
I was offered $25 an hour as a laborer. That was, and no path to succession. There was no comp plan. There was no job description. There was nothing. This was like, I mean, I had painted, you know, in Minnesota, we have those like 1949, 1955 little shoebox houses. You know, they're just kind of
Yeah,
little,
yeah.
you know, they're about 900
Cardboard
square
siding.
feet. Dude, he dropped me off in town here with a 5 foot wooden step ladder and a 5 gallon bucket of paint. And I had scraped, spot primed, caulked, and 2 coats, 2 colors on that little rambler with my 5 foot ladder in one day. He came back and he was like, "Oh, you're done? Well, I guess we'll find another one." And that's what I was doing. I was constantly trying to see how good and how fast I could do it. And I think in turn I was probably trying to impress him, but that's what the stage I was in, which is everything was constantly progressing, constantly going forward. And I think he kind of saw me and my brother as, well, these guys will paint the houses, I'll drive the truck around and we'll do that. But that's not how you support 3 families, you know.
No. What's your brother doing now?
My brother's not with us anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to
Yeah,
hear that.
perfectly fine.
Um,
Appreciate you asking.
uh, your father said no. He said, "Screw you, Nick." Um, well, basically, he said that. Then you and your wife started talking.
Well,
You know.
I've been now that I have a lot more headspace with my business and personal life and everything else, I've been going back through a lot of the archives of stuff I had because again, we're talking 17 years ago. Facebook and Instagram weren't a thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, when I first started advertising, it was Yellow Pages and it was the newspaper. Like, so there's a lot of like boxes of stuff that's all written pen and ink archives out in my garage. You know, we're young guys, but I literally the first foundational years of my business were literally just like, you know, carbon duplicate estimates and things like that. So I've been really trying to go back and kind of relive that time. And I was actually able to reconnect with some old employees as well. And they kind of filled in a lot of gaps because obviously we're having kids. I'm getting married. We just broke up a family business. There's all sorts of, it's like you're not being present, right? All you're doing is thinking about making sure that this doesn't go bad. So I don't know, man. It was just a really weird headspace. And yeah, it's hard to put yourself back there, but I'm slowly piecing it together those first couple years.
You ever see your dad at the paint store?
Yeah. So I think I probably see him about 2 times a year, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah, and always polite, always cordial. You know, I treat him like a neighbor. But we had yeah, there's been a lot of pressure over the years from everybody, and I don't disagree with it, but people wanting me to reconcile with my father. And
Hmm.
what they will not see, there's many things people won't see, but what they won't see is me trying to be the adult, the sort of like yeah, patrilineage side of the family and trying to piece this up. I mean, if not for me, for the grandkids. And
Mhm.
I can point to 4 distinct times where I literally extended the olive branch. I said, for the good of the family, and each time it was not dealt with very well. So at some point, you have like the public, which is like, oh, I'm sure you guys will get back together. We've seen a lot of Hallmark movies. We know how this goes. And you'll say, listen, that's
It's saying that. It's saying a movie.
what this isn't a movie and this isn't a book. And also there's an inciting incident in all those stories where somebody has an epiphany, somebody changes something about them. And you
Mhm.
could argue that really yeah, even to the point of employing my father for a short while and then having my employees come to me and say, dude,
You
he is
employed
not
your father for a
how you.
short while?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did that how did that came to be then?
Oh, yeah, so that's an interesting one. So, this was probably the final time, like, let's call it number 4, that I tried to patch it up because we were starting to have some grandkids. I mean, there might have been 2 kids already here of my
Yeah,
4.
yeah.
And I thought, God, a grandparent and a grandmother should know their grandkids. Like that, if I didn't know my grandkids, that would be I would consider myself a failure, right?
Yeah.
And so at some point, I know it took a lot of guts, but he walked over to my house. We both owned historic homes 6 blocks away from each other on the same street in this little, in the little historic town
New
here.
place,
So
yeah.
he walked over and he goes, "Nick, we need to just patch it up. I'm going to sell you all my gear for $800, stacks of ladders, random equipment. I don't think there was a paint sprayer or a pressure washer in there. I think it was all just, ladders and drop cloths and stuff. So for
Mhm.
$800, I think he even tried to sell it to me for 2,000. I told him, I don't know, I'll give you $800 or something. So basically, informally, I bought his business for $800. He came and worked for me, and I don't know the exact amount of times, but like uh, he worked for me for a very short period, and some of my most trusted employees, because we were running multiple jobs at that point. And one of my
Mhm.
employees came up to me and is like, "Man, this guy is showing up late. He's leaving early. He's just talking with the homeowner. He's cussing at a downspout." Things like that. He's missing spots on the side of the house. And, as that's not how I wanted things to go, right? And
How many
I
years
just
ago was this?
oh my lord. Let's call it somewhere between 8 and 10 years ago. 8 and 10 years ago. Yeah. So it was
So
absolutely not the way I
he's not a painter anymore in New Prague.
difficult. He's always owned a single owner painting business. He made a big deal out of it. He used to be a newspaper writer in town, so he knows the people in town, and part of my family still owns the newspaper in town here. So I think he got a hold of him and he said, "Hey, this is my big retirement story. I want to do a story on this." And I think they did a story on him of his retirement and hanging up the brush. And the next week he put another ad in the paper, and I think he's just doing random jobs now. So I don't know. I assume he's out there, but I mean, he's getting up there, man. I can't imagine he's out there producing. So yeah.
Yeah, it must be rough. Must be rough.
Hmm.
Um, you exceeded your father. Easy to say. You were chairman of the PCA, Painters Contractors Association of America. You are doing this podcast every week. Um, is all this turbulence that like you guys went through? Is this been a driving force for you?
Well, it's interesting. To say it's not is wildly inaccurate. I mean, you could argue that. Um, okay, two things. Number one, when I started my own business, it was the driving force. I mean, I was literally a 26-year-old guy who had got fresh out of 2 wars in the army. I was a paratrooper. I got a college education. I'm a really good painter. I'm starting a family. Like there's like stuff happening everywhere, and it's just like formative times, and you're going through all the major life experiences that people do. And at that point, honestly, it was a very negative driving force. I wanted to crush my father, right? Like
It's still a driving force though. But like it
oh,
drives.
dude, it's absolute driving force. Now, the good thing is, if I've done many things unintentionally well in my life, and one of the things I did was I fed that angst and anger and retribution kind of energy into
Mhm.
my painting business, and what it came out as is customer service. because there was a couple of very
How did that
formative,
work?
yeah, there's a very couple formative times working with my father where it had always happened where it was a single middle-aged to older woman, potentially divorced, potentially widowed, that owned a house, and she would question something that my father did, and my father threw up his arms and said, "We're out of here." And he left me to clean up these jobs. And it's like the second somebody pushed on him, he basically just threw his arms up and said, "I don't care. I'm just out of here. You can have this painting work." And then I had to sit there with this client and I had to honor my father, right? I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, the old jerk." But
Yeah.
also I had to, like, I knew what was right and wrong and I could never
And
tell.
you wanted the money also, or no?
Well, it's one of those things where I was getting paid by the hour at that point. So it's like for me, it's all the humanistic thing, which is I don't know why my father walked off these jobs, but they were formative things for me. And I never wanted to be in that situation again. So honestly, when I started my business, I broke myself to help my clients. I mean, listen, whenever you need an estimate, everybody got a free color consult with every job. I was there working all hours of the day. 100 hours a week was never enough. So, in some ways good, in some ways bad, but it's a hell of a way to get a business off the ground.
Right on, right on. Um, what else do you do besides running a painting business? I
Ah,
mentioned a little bit already, but
yeah. So I've changed the way I describe myself a lot. In the recent, I've had a couple very formative foundational years, just the last couple years here, learning about myself and things like that. And I would always describe myself now as husband and father first. Citizen of my beautiful little community. I happen to own a
mm,
paint business. I happen to say a lot of stuff on the internet. I happen to be a servant leader for the PCA. I happen to have a lot of friends and peers in this industry that we exchange knowledge. But yeah, family and relationships and friends and citizenry has now become like, I've refocused my life into prioritizing a lot of that stuff because it hasn't
yeah.
always been a priority in a lot of years.
But how do you do that though? Because you just went on a trip to Brazil. You go
Oh yeah.
here. You run a business. There's a bazillion things on your plate. Like, how do you make adequate time for your family?
Well, what's really interesting is I've always unsatisfying answer potentially. I've always made time for those things. I haven't always been present during that time. And so that is I'm not a watcher of sports. I'm not a video gamer. I don't go down to bars and drink beers with my friends. I don't even do a lot of stuff outside of work and family. And
Taking
so
saunas.
what's that?
Taking saunas.
Yes, exactly. That's only 30 minutes a day though, and my family's still sleeping during it. So yeah. No, so basically I've always had this philosophy of I don't know where I was introduced to this, but it was a huge slap in the face to me very early on in my life where it was, there's 24 hours in the day, you got 3 8-hour days. Typically, you could work for 8, you could sleep for 8, but that leaves you 8 hours. And
Yeah.
so again, you probably could label or title this entire thing things that Nick's done unintentionally very well. Like it was not my decade long, 2 decade long plan to do this sort of thing. But I've always taken that third 8, work for 8, sleep for 8, and divided it almost evenly between work and family. So we're probably looking at 12 hours a day for work, 4 hours a day for family, 8 hours for sleep, usually 4 to 6 because the business keeps me up during that time, but that is allocated as sleep time. But now instead of having that 4 hours where I'm physically standing there with my family, but my brain is a mile away and I have 1,000 yard stare. Now the life's goal is be present where your mind and body are in the same place. And Tanner Mullen, a friend of ours, said one of the funniest things I've ever heard, which is we share this sort of thing. It's like he's growing a paint business. I'm growing a paint business. Our favorite game with our kids was laying down. Like I would come home and I would just literally like lay on the floor while my kids played around me because I was just completely depleted.
Too big,
And
yeah.
boy, I could tell everybody that I was there for my family. And I was a good dad, but I was a zombie, man.
What is a good dad? What does it mean to you to be a good dad?
I think, I think it's sort of one of those like, I think it's being as present as you can be without beating yourself up that you can't truly be present all the time. And your kids know the freaking difference. Like
Yeah,
you
no,
can,
they do. They do. They do. Yeah.
and my mentor said something that really rocked me to my core. I think it was about 2 years ago. He was an entrepreneur too. And he goes like, Nick, listen, I went to all the volleyball games. I was at the softball games. I was at the archery things, but my kids knew I wasn't mentally there. And
Well,
so you're not checking a box, man. Like step one is be there, but you got to work hard to be present. And my God, this world gives us so much to just distract us from being so in the end, I think honestly, nobody's ever able to be 100% present, but being as present as you can and not beating yourself up that you can't do it all the time is probably being a good parent.
have you ever thought about like deleting Instagram, stopping this whole show just for the sake of being more present? Because I think probably would help, right?
Well, you know what's really interesting is that I might be one of the few, and this might be completely delusional as well too. I have a bias towards some of my own things, but I believe that if you actually look at my screen time, how I use the internet, it adds value to my life. It is not a distraction. It is not a thing that takes me away from anything else that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think I have a very healthy relationship with it, and in
Yeah.
fact guys like you and me would never know each other without it.
Right.
I would never know the PCA. The most foundational humans in my life, I would never have met, arguably,
Without.
without Ask a Painter Live. And Ask a Painter Live, I just went to Brazil because of my friends there. Right now on Instagram, I'm seeing tons of people watching. They're all speaking Portuguese. These are
You
all
want to
our
give him a
friends in Brazil.
shout out in your best Portuguese?
Boa noite, everybody. Olá,
Oh.
pessoal. Tudo bem?
um, I saw you had a grand old time in Brazil. I followed along from the sidelines. Are you going to open up shop over there?
No,
And why not?
I love it down there, but and this is not saying anything bad about Brazil. This is saying
No.
something grand about America, which is we got it so freaking good over here, man. Like when you think about people always talk about the American dream and freedom and stuff, and we like to shake our fist and say these things. That's real, man. We got rule of law. Our dollar is super strong. I mean, it's 6-to-1 exchange ratio. I can take an American dollar down there. It's worth $6 American. Like you can stay at the nicest resort down there for a couple $100 a night.
Yeah.
It's wild, right? We take a lot of that stuff for granted. Just all those simple little things. I can hunt. Hunting is illegal in Brazil. I hunted 7 times in this last week here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like simple little things like that. So it would be tough to start a business. Security is an issue down there, most definitely. And there's poverty that exists in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the 4th largest city in the world, the likes of which Americans have never even dreamt of.
I bet. I bet. No, I saw that part about, or like, I watched most of it, but I saw that part about the spray tips costing almost $80.
Yep.
Just right there, my dollar signs started.
Yep. Well, you know
Send a
what's
box from home. Buy them over here. I'm sure you get a better price at your Sherwin-Williams.
Well, what's really interesting is that for the last 3 times, I'm back safe in my home country with rule of law, and I'm safeguarded by the American government. But I take a carry-on full of contraband down there, sprayers, tips, and everything. I probably bring a few $1,000 worth of that and give it to all my
Yeah.
friends down there. Sprayers, quick shots and stuff like that, stuff
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Titan that they've never seen before. And
Uh-huh.
it's the simplest thing ever that we can explain is like the government puts on crazy taxes and tariffs. The 2 big things that shock Americans the most are, a Graco 390 will cost $4 grand.
Yeah.
American dollars, right? And there's
I think it's worth. I think it's worth it though. Like I got 2 390s PC. I paid like $800 for them. These machines are worth way more than what I paid for them.
I
They paid
agree.
themselves back so many times.
I agree. If they cost $5 grand, I'd still buy the same amount of them.
Probably. Yeah.
But the other crazy thing about Brazil is there's 100% tax on employment. So we always complain about, the government taxes us so much,
Yeah.
employment taxes, unemployment, all this and that. Honestly, I'm one of those people where I look at what I pay the government, and obviously you don't want to pay it. But when you think about the firefighters, the police, the rule of law, the city
Mhm.
streets, the sewage, the federal, state, and local government. Like, my God, is that the best deal on the planet or what? So I'm
I
not
don't
one
know
of
about
those.
the best deal. Like I'm from the Netherlands. We paid a lot more taxes over there. Roads looked a little better, but we're getting too political. Let's not go that
You're
route.
biased. And also, I've never been there. If I go there, I will render a objective opinion on that. So
Well, hereby you're officially invited. Let's go to the Netherlands together and find out about the historical painting over there because they do some cool stuff over there. You think high glass doors are cool over here? Come to the Netherlands. You go to Brazil, you do a lot of these things. I'm sure you're not that nervous about like speaking in front of a crowd anymore.
not at
But
all.
let's say there is something that you're kind of nervous for. Like, how do you prepare yourself? What do you do?
You know what's
You listen
really
to
interesting?
music or do you yoga or?
Yeah, so I used to get to give you a little background. I used to get so nervous when I would speak in front of people. I can still remember harken back 8, 9 years ago when I first started doing master's classes at the PCA expos and traveling around and doing them. I used to be tied up in so much knots. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was in my hotel room pacing back and forth. I would give my presentation to myself 1,000 times there, and I would change the slides all the way right up until the presentation.
Mhm.
I I even broke out in hives one time because I was so nervous. Like I had a physical reaction to the stress because I put such a burden on myself to do well in front of these
Uh-huh.
people. And yeah, I don't think I've ever told anybody that, but that was a lot of years of that. But 18 times a year plus a whole bunch of years. And now I've created this operating system where it's just like anything else. You
It's an
have some
SOP?
yeah, this is an SOP, and there's this beautiful operating system where
Mhm.
it's no different than anything else. Like I've skydived before, I've done international travel, I've spoken in front of tons of people, I've got married, I've had kids, I've started multiple businesses. Pretty soon you find yourself that none of these things are really that different. There's a certain amount of knowns, there's a certain amount of unknowns. Some people get crippled if there's any bit of unknowns. Now, um, I just walk into these things saying, listen, I usually have a way of figuring this out and I'm going to do it. There's a certain amount of things you can do to learn and adapt while you're doing it. And honestly, people give you a lot of grace, man. It's not this thing where if you do 99 out of 100 things right in your first public speaking thing, nobody remembers the 100th
Yeah,
thing, right?
right.
People give you so much grace and people love to see people get uncomfortable and do those things. So now like if somebody said, "Hey, let's go to the Netherlands," I'll be like, "Yeah, I don't speak Dutch. I don't know what anything is over there, but you know what? I've done this
I'll do it.
before. This is the end of the
Right
world. I
on.
got Google, I got a wallet, I got a phone. Like, figure it out.
I can do this. I got a tracksuit.
I got a tracksuit. We'll be
I
fine."
got a
Yeah,
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
has
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you. Like, why the tracksuits? Like, did you watch a lot of mob movies, or like, where did they came from?
Oh, dude, that tracksuit. So, there's always a little bit of pretentiousness, right, in some of that stuff. Like we buy clothes because we like people to see that the clothes say something about us.
Hmm.
Um, I there's part of me that wish I would have grown up in an Italian family, right, and just
So,
have like that deep heritage, a second language, specific food. Italian food is like the best food on earth. I love just tracksuits and things like that, and a way of speaking. I love signifiers that group you together in groups. So for me, it's more of like a number one. It
do
is
you
the
get into a mob
comfortable.
role?
No,
Is
well,
this
everybody.
a role you're playing in the tracksuit, or like what are we getting at then?
It's really interesting. So because I'm blue-eyed and white, a lot of people consider me now Russian mafia now. So when I
Oh,
do the tracksuits, nobody thinks I'm Italian walking around in that stuff. But I will say this: a number one most comfortable way to travel. Like you see all these people traveling on planes with like pajama pants and
no, not
slippers
the
and
way.
pillows.
No.
Dude, listen, there's a certain amount of decorum I have to have. Tracksuit is about the lowest amount of that.
Yeah.
Also, if you want people to open up, strangers at the airport or international travel, you get a nice tracksuit going like that. People come like compliments all the time. I even got called one of the coolest things ever. Taking my family, I think we were going down to North Carolina, potentially Florida, and we're
Yeah.
walking through the airport. I'm in my green tracksuit, and somebody walked by and said, "Oh, he's a tracksuit dad." I'm like, that is weirdly specific. I
Right
guess
on.
I took pride in it, but I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I got my tracksuit dad."
So you got one tracksuit?
Oh, I got lots of them, dude. Oh,
Oh, you got lots. Because
yeah. So
I always see the green one, but is there more?
well, the green one is the most
Recognized?
respectable one, but on the retreats, I have a couple plaid ones, like those Irish kind of looking ones like that. I got some. I got a really cool. Yeah, I probably have about six of them, give or take. And they usually come out in the presidential suite at the Expo when we have the Club 19107 parties. And then,
Mhm.
yeah, at the retreats, I usually get on the plaid tracksuit. They're all tasteful. They're not goofy, but they're all comfortable.
What's in the pockets of these tracksuits then?
Usually just chapstick and a phone, just
That's
running. Very simple, very simple.
um, something completely different. I know some of the people that work for you, uh,
Yep.
Andy and Asha, to name two,
Oh
or
yeah, awesome
those are the
people.
two that I know, like on a personal level now.
Yep.
They are amazing, Nick. Like
Yeah.
I love
Awesome.
these. I love these guys.
Yep.
Um, how do you attract those people?
Yeah, I think, well, number one, you do a lot of hard work and you be genuine. I mean, it's saying a lot of unsatisfying things. It's no different than, how do you get fit? Well, you eat a lot of vegetables and you move around a lot. It's like everybody knows that, right? And it's the same thing with good people. There's a reason we attract towards each other. There's a reason there's a reason Asha was here. There's a reason Nate Hutzel, another one who left my business under my apprenticeship years ago, started his own business in southern
Mhm.
Minnesota. These are I still work with these people. These are awesome people. And I honestly think that, again, if you want to talk about like outward expression of humans and being genuine, I do that on Ask a Painter Live. And the biggest compliment I think I've ever gotten professionally is when somebody comes to visit me and see my shop, meet my people and this, and they're like, it's exactly like Nick says. Like there is a lot of people use social media to show the
That's
Lamborghini and
certain.
the
Yeah.
highlights and all this other stuff. Dude, I show my entire life like that, right? There's obviously,
Mhm.
you're not seeing every part. I'm not live streaming at 3 in the morning when I'm sleeping, but
No, no,
it's
no.
people understand that, like, most people put the best versions of themselves online. I put
Mhm.
me online. And honestly, if you're genuine like that, it doesn't
Is that
even
scary sometimes though?
no, no, not I so
No.
this is, again, we should be making a list of things Nick has done very well, but unintentionally. And
Mhm.
literally, I think this is my 12th, 11th or 12th year of posting on Facebook and then Instagram. And I've always just done this. And when nobody watched, like nobody remembers the first 3 years of me on social media because almost nobody knew me then. But I was
Right.
just posting random stuff. And nobody would, you can go right now on my feed. If you can scroll back far enough, there's a whole bunch of crap. Nobody even give me a thumbs up on. There's just zero. There's just nothing.
Yeah.
But I just like sharing. It's one of those like outward expression things where I really like what I do. And I like it when other people share their stuff. So I think I'm just going to do that anyway, whether people watch it or not. No, no,
I
no.
know, but this is social media. I'm sure there's some negativity coming your way at times.
Well, I will tell you this. A lot of misconceptions about what I do, which is potentially social media takes over my life. It does not. I would consider I have a very healthy relationship. And number two, people honestly think all the time, like, oh my God, Nick, the haters. I'm like, listen, there's a couple salty, angry dogs from the painting industry that find me every once in a while, and you can
Mhm.
tell that they just got online. They don't have any of the history. The most
Mhm.
beautiful thing about this community we've created, Dirk, is that I
Mhm.
don't need to do anything anymore. I post
Somebody
something and
else, somebody else will fix this
oh,
for you.
dude, somebody's like, "Oh, listen, Mister Businessman, you should learn how to paint like the rest of us here, and this and that." And they'll start spouting off a bunch of stuff, and I just say, we'll just let the old community take care of this one." And and pretty soon that person ushers themselves out, and it's just, yeah, it just is what it's self policing at this point. So,
Right on. That's good. I'm glad for you. Talking about being Mr. Big Businessman and painting. Do you paint still at times?
oh yeah,
And
no, it's
yeah.
I will typically not interfere with my job sites. Um, but certainly for myself, around
Mhm.
my farm and things like that, around my shop, I do that. And I'll get in the shop and technically advise. I am still the master craftsman of the company. I still uphold the standards. I test out all the coatings. I make sure the equipment is there. I write all the SOPs and update them every year. And
Mhm.
at this point now, um, Yeah, it's
If
one of the,
we would capture it monthly, how many hours of painting do you do?
oh, 2 hours a month, give or take.
2 hours a month.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, like, what do you like when you paint? Like, what
Oh,
do you like to do? You like to run a spray? You like to cut in? You like to remove tape? What is
so
it you like?
it's all satisfying. If because I have a limited time to actually paint, I have a lot of people I have to take care of, and it literally, if I painted 10 hours a week, something would not get done that I need to do to take care of my people. So now, when I get a chance, I want it to be old and I want it to be beautiful. So the two things that come to mind are doing anything with quarter sawn white oak, which is my favorite wood. I've tried everything.
Mhm.
Years and years ago, I used to do the thing where you put the steel wool in the vinegar, and then that's your dye for the wood. It gives the. I used to fume white oak with ammonia. I used to tent it like they did in the old days. Put a glass
Mhm.
jar of ammonia in a tented area, and it actually like makes it that chocolatey brown. It
Mhm.
affects the tannic acid in the wood. Or I want an old house with very porous wood, and I want to hand apply primer into that and fill those pores and leave it beautiful. Those two things, if I could oscillate between those things, those are the most
You do it
satisfying
all the
things
time.
that I do in the craft.
I hear you. Um, what makes you happy, Nick?
That's changes. Um,
Oh,
in
for me, it changes every week. But like, what is it last week for you that made you happy, or like,
Yeah, I've done an enormous amount of work on myself in the last 2 years to make sure that I'm a stable base for my family and my businesses and everything else.
just by yourself, or like, did you like have any outside help for this,
Oh,
or?
you only do this with outside help. There are four distinct entities and probably another three or four ancillary ones that go around it that help me with certain things. And happiness is a kind of a weird thing. Like, I think I've had a very unhealthy, just like we talked about, motivation. The outward expression of wanting revenge against your father can actually look pretty great. It's a successful business. You're doing great work. The community loves you, but inside, that's like it
Eating
festers.
you up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a healthy. You can't. That's not a solid foundation on which to build a family and a business. So it'll get you along for a while, and over the years, I've eventually like turned the tide over where it's not revenge anymore, and now it's a little more like pity and honor, and sort of thoughts about the past of like, well, okay, my father made some decisions that I don't necessarily agree with. You
Hmm.
can either fight that or you can say, well, you have your own kids now. Maybe
Yeah.
you should start
Focus
applying
on
for
this.
that
Yeah.
and work forward. Yeah. So there's an unhealthy and a healthy version. Over the last couple of years, though, I have, my God, the lessons have been coming in wheelbarrows full. So the thing that makes me the happiest now is being okay with micro consistency and small wins, right? Like I didn't drastically change the shape or health of my person last year, but I've never had a more consistent year with fitness. For 4
Hmm.
days a week, I did something for 30 minutes, and I did it and when I set the goal of 4, I ended up doing 5.5 a week,
Yeah.
And so you could look back at this last year and say, "Well, Nick, you don't look like Matt Kuiper." So you're obviously not winning, right? Or you could say, "Nick, you just made 52 weeks times 5.5 times, hundreds and hundreds of great decisions consistently every day without failing with accountability partners and everything else.
Hmm.
Reveling in that and being okay that that's a win and patting yourself in the back and not tearing yourself down because you
That
didn't
makes you
change
happy.
the world. Yeah. And so happiness to me now is, hey, my daughter got roller skates and she wants me to drag her around the house. If I can get myself to be present for the next 6 minutes, that is a bigger win than almost anything else I can do. So I used to beat myself up and be very unhappy that I didn't create another Ask a Painter. I didn't make chair the PCA. I didn't come up with some revelatory thing for the industry. I didn't innovate in some crazy way. That is not a healthy standard. It's all the little incremental micro wins that you get every day. You need to revel in them and be present for them because those are what makes you happy.
You talk a lot about being present here. Like, who is the main force behind this? Because, like you said, like all this work, all this help for internal work is like from outside people. But like, who like made that switch go off? Or
I tell you what, biologically that switch went off. I'm going to be 43 next month, and as far
Hmm,
as I know, my life's about half over, give or take. And you start like, I mean, I have a 16-year-old daughter who's driving now, and it all of a sudden, everybody older than me would always say, "Oh my God, life goes so fast." On your wedding day, your grandma will come up and say, "Oh my God, life goes so fast," and you're like, "I know
enjoy
that."
it like then, yeah.
But dude, I am getting married. I'm leaving a family business. I just got out of the military. I'm doing it's like I know this goes fast, but there's just so much to do and they're not wrong. And now, I start looking at all these archives of images and videos of my kids in the first 10 years of me growing this business. And I got to be honest with you, I don't
You
remember a
miss
lot of
something.
that stuff, man. And for me now it's like, oh my God, I still have an 8 or 9 year old here at home. I can still be present. I'm not going to beat myself up that I did all this stuff because it ended up being it
Just
laid the
that's the way it is.
foundation.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to farm. You got to farm in the sound out of it, so it's all good. But
but it could
same
it could have been
course.
different. But I'm not going to beat myself up about it because that just is what it is. I'm going to celebrate right now. You can live in this and regret those things. There's nothing you can do to change that. So being kind to yourself is also a big part of being happy. Where it's like, yeah, nobody's perfect, man. Nobody's 100% present for their kids, but an extra 15 minutes a day, every day for 10 years makes all the difference in the world. And that can be a win in itself.
Your oldest daughter is 16. You
Yep.
were talking about like the greatest thing in life would be one of my kids in my business. I mean, my kids are a lot younger, but by the time my son is 16, he's gonna have to send for a year. Just to no, yeah, I think it's great life practice. Like
I agree.
it's great to just do something that you don't like for a long time and
Yeah.
like get through with that. Isn't she like about? Isn't she ready?
Yeah. So being intentional has always been important to me. And over the last 3 years, I've ratcheted up to a pretty crazy level of intentionality of taking a 20 to 30 year plan and breaking it down into today, what has to be
Mhm.
done. And this last year, my three oldest kids have formally started something within my businesses here. Maybe it's a little marketing, maybe it's a little shop work, give or take, but we're starting
Mhm.
to introduce them to it. So it's yeah, there's going to be
So the
lots of
15-year-old is already working in the business.
yep, yep.
Fun, fun.
Just trying to make them want to instead of force them to, like I was. So
Yeah, it's a big part of like a little bit of force. Like I was myself. I was rolled into this profession. I didn't really want to do it at the beginning. There was some force behind it for me.
oh yeah,
I think it worked out in the end. You were forced in this profession. Now you're what? I don't know what your how many millions a year and how many people like your podcast, but like we can cuss on it, but also it worked a little bit. You got something out of it.
yeah. It was interesting where I was forced into my passion. Uh, I never would have found it without my father. I was
Hmm.
forced into it. I didn't like it when I was forced to do it, but I love it when I chose to do it. And so the tact I took with my kids is this is the long play. This is dad's going to be happy. Dad's going to make a lot of money. He's going to have time and money freedom, and he's just going to love his job. He's going to come home every day with energy. Every
Be
time you
happy.
ask him about his job, it's going to be awesome, and I'm going to offer them opportunities. And so far, it's worked. I haven't had to force him to do anything. And
No,
yeah, I even try to be like, oh yeah, listen, there's going to be always opportunities for you there. But you know what though? I know this guy Dirk in Duluth. It'd be fun to go work for him for a summer. I know
it wouldn't
the
be fun. It
kite.
wouldn't be fun. I'd make your kids miserable. I'm no good. I'm no good of a boss. I've got a long
Interesting
way to go. I've got a
experiences.
long way to go.
But no, I would actually revel in, like, hey, I would love a couple of my kids to go do an internship at Surf Prep in California. Like just learn from other people. And
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten
Don't you
over the
win?
thing where I have to be the one to teach them everything about business, or I have to be the one to give them the opportunities. And honestly, if they found it elsewhere with other people I love, I would be so happy for them.
So they all have a little, or the oldest three have a little bit of a role in the company. Could you maybe share an example of something they did that, like, you're like internally going like, oh
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
for sure. You can
yeah,
imagine I got SOPs for almost everything. So it's not hard to
mm,
teach
yeah,
these kids things. So okay, oldest daughter, I had her start with some marketing stuff. She's very savvy with that sort of thing. And again, what every bone in my body said, you need to make her scrape a barn because that's what you did. You need to make her earn her stripes. Well, you know what though? She's we can be used for other things, right? My dad could have started me with doing estimates. He did not. I probably would have, but
mm,
for about 6 months, she created and posted every organic social media post that I did. I showed her how to
mm,
turn the pictures a little brighter, a little warmer in
mm,
company branding. I
mm,
taught her how to do the wording in them. I taught her how to post 45 days in advance on Instagram and Facebook. And what we did was I showed her a few, just like apprenticeship. And then I wrote her an SOP. I let her do some. We corrected them. She had some frustration with some things there that were obvious to me that weren't obvious to her. We coached
mm.
on it like that, and then she did it. And then she just knocked it out of the park in a half an hour. It would take her about 3 minutes a post to dig
Right
through
on.
my images, create something, put some wording on it, and schedule it. So yeah,
But when
that's
I'm
one
liking
big.
something right now of you, it's actually a daughter that's doing it.
It was later. It was earlier this year. So she goes in stint. She is a insanely good competitive dancer. And when she like tonight, she had a 4 hour practice. There's no time for marketing with
Oh,
dad. You know what I mean? Like she needs to
mhm.
devote her entire life to this thing. And yeah, the SOP is so simple. I can just flex in and out of it. And if she wants to work, she can. So
How about putting your kids on social media at all? Some people choose like to like not do that at all because they're not 18 and can consent and all that stuff.
yeah.
I think you're walking a pretty nice balance of posting your kids online. Um, but I'm sure there's an SOP in your head there of like, what do I show? What do I don't show? Should I show this?
Yeah, there's some pretty distinct opinions on this, which is some people blur their kids out or don't show them or they don't even exist online, and
Mm,
some the kids are going live with them. And I'm somewhere in the middle where my wife is a very private person. I want to honor that and
mm,
honor the privacy of the kids, but um, again, genuineness comes across the best. If I
mm.
blurt out like my kids and my wife's face and stuff like that, that's not genuine. I love these people. They're part of my life.
I
It's
know, but they're also their own people, you know.
they are their own people. Yeah,
I've
and
Toots is her nickname, or
yeah,
is that from
and
Tootsie Roll?
no, just toots. Like so for me, you actually hit on a good thing. I believe nicknames are very foundational to like the culture of a family. And this is not, again, something that I did unintentionally very well, which is I didn't say when I have a family, everybody's going to get a nickname because it brings us closer together. It's a touch point. No, it's just something that I always did. And I liked, for better or for worse, I love that old 1930s, 40s, and 50s where husbands called their wife Toots, like, hey, Toots. And so, kind of like half joking, I would just
Yeah.
like, when my wife and I were courting and dating, I'm like, yeah, hey, Toots, what are you doing tonight? And it just stuck. And it was a thing that really, there's only a couple people that actually call it to her face, and some of our
Mhm.
closest friends, because it's really my affirmation to her that
Well,
is
like it's the only way I know her. Like I've heard about her, I've
yeah,
seen her face. I don't know what her name is. Maybe I shouldn't know. I know her as Tootsie or
yep,
Toots.
yep.
Uh,
And my kids have nicknames too. We
yeah.
named all our animals as people do, and I believe that is it gives you pride. It brings you closer together, and so I think I'm staring at a picture of me and Surfer Boy. We were ringing the Salvation Army bell, and yes, his
Mhm.
face is there. We call him Surfer Boy. It's a really cool thing. It signifies something very special to me and him, and
Mhm.
he gets to live these experiences with me. And yeah, but also people don't know his social security number, so I'm fine with that too.
Right on, right on. Um, who inspires you on social media, Nick? Did you say,
Mm,
man, I wish that was my channel, or man, every time I watch that, I want to do something like that, or you know.
yeah, a couple things. Number one, Techno Tuesday is the greatest thing ever. Don't ever stop that. Don't ever
No,
stop
I
it.
won't. I won't.
You got some pretty deep hits. There's probably been more than a few times where I Spotified those songs and added them to my playlist. So there's probably a couple Dirk Dirk hits in there somewhere.
You know, I have
You
good
know,
music taste.
yeah, you have to say Christian Manhard, man. He is just like, I think what impresses me is not one style. Uh, I like him. Number one, he's infectious. I mean, he is just
Oh,
like the
he is. Yeah,
happiest
no,
guy.
I know.
You
I
just
know.
wanna be his brother, when you see him online, and I think he does what I do fairly well, which is probably
He's
unintentional,
real.
but it works. Everything is genuine, and I love that he shows the process.
Hmm.
What he said to me was one of the most, like, slap you in the face thing. He's like, "Nick, when's the last time you seen me do a before and after picture online?" It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know that I've ever seen your finished work, if I'm
No.
being honest. It's literally just sped up process videos.
Yeah.
And that is his thing. It's genuine to him. It turn I think he would do that regardless. I would do Ask a Painter regardless. Turns out a lot of people like to pay him for that sort of thing. A lot of people like to
Mm,
pay me for Ask a Painter. It just happens unintentionally that that's a very good thing. Now,
mm.
I appreciate that because not only is he the most lovable human on earth, he creates some of the best content for the industry. I believe the utilitarianism of him goes far beyond me. I am a utilitarian. I am so impressed by utilitarianism. He does insanely well with that. He's also raising the standard of the industry by these videos. He is doing so many things with one video. He's
Yeah.
inspiring people,
No,
raising the
I
level of
learned a lot from him, but enough feathers in his ass. Who else?
Oh yeah. So there are people that are not in the painting industry that I looked. Our industry does not have a lot of super inspirational people on social media, right? I like innovative things like that. And this is not me downplaying this.
No, 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 no.
This
But
is
like who? Like name some examples or like
yeah.
who?
So I'm trying to think of a good example, but if you I I also have so much awe for highly curated, highly edited videos, 45 minutes, an hour and a half YouTube videos. There's one guy that I watch with my kids, Drew builds things. He's a
Yeah.
young guy from Canada, and he'll just take on this thing. And I know from doing video editing, a 30-second TikTok video can take me a
Take a
week
look.
sometimes, right? He has 45-minute build videos that have 9 GoPros going, and he will probably have 2,700 edits in a
Yeah.
45-minute video. And I just think the amount of time that you can do that. I'm still working on a 17 or 18-minute video where I refinish the wood parts of my first gun ever.
Hmm.
it There's 320 edits, and it crashes my computer every time I like go to do something with it and add another cut. So for
Hmm.
this guy to have an hour and a half long YouTube video, and all of it
Cool.
is
Yeah.
8K, crystal clear, perfectly narrated, every satisfying shot, multiple angles, I just think I'm not that guy, and
No.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah. When is this video about your gun coming out though? Can we
It
can we
literally
get a commitment here?
I'm unable to, like, every time I go to like render it or wherever it's called, add another cut, it crashes my computer. So it's stuck. It's stuck in my computer right now. So
Maybe ask Jason for help. He seems good with computers.
well, now with the advent of AI, I should turn over. I have a Google Drive with probably a gigabyte of video from capturing from that whole take apart, strip, and redo. I should just turn that over to GPT and just say, cut this up for me. And I bet you it would come up with something better than I could. So
You could do that, or ask Christian. He'll make a video because I've sent raw video material to him and told him like, oh, I'm gonna edit it like this way, and I got it like back 5 minutes later,
oh, are
edited
you serious?
perfectly.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
No, he does. He's really quick at it. I'm sure like all the practice helped. He's been doing
I
this for
love it.
years. How do you stay relevant on social media, and do you worry about staying relevant?
I definitely worry about staying relevant. So far, I have a hack for that, which is constantly professionalizing my business and testing out new techniques and coding. So I don't think I'm at the forefront to any of this stuff. I'm aware of all the knife's edge and razor edge things. The one
Mhm.
good thing my business keeps me very humble. Like there are so many wild, exotic, very pain in the ass coatings that we could be using right now. We experiment with them in our shop, but my business and the volume at which we do and the apprentices that we have limit my use of those things. And honestly, it makes my life easier. I
You still
love
use cover stain, right?
Yes, we'll probably be switching to a Sherwin alternative this next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will test everything. I do lots of crazy experiments in the shop.
Hmm.
It's just that, for the business, we have to have something that's readily available,
Right on.
that I have human interaction to get. We can't mail order anything. So yeah, I think staying relevant is I am I think I'm far enough ahead with some of the things we do with business where
You're
there's
not worried
still
for me coming for you?
Oh, I no, listen,
Because I'm
and
aiming, man. I'm
Dirk,
aiming.
honestly, one of the best things ever is I've completely gotten over that scarcity mindset now, where
Yeah.
if somebody right up the road from me partners with Jason Paris and triples the size of their business, I literally high
Hmm.
five them now instead of saying, "Oh, those are my houses to paint." So anyway, getting staying relevant is a big thing. The good thing is right now my natural way of living and professionalizing my business, training human beings is still kind of like
Cutting edge.
I think it is only because I'm the guy who says it online. There's tons of people who do what I do all over the place that don't even have websites, that
Right on.
certainly don't do stuff on social media. I just have that combination of I have an outwardly sized business statistically for our industry, and I also tell a lot of people about it online. So I
Yeah.
think it's that combination of those things. There will be a time where I think about this all the time. Like, Dirk, we're coming up on 9 years of Ask a Painter, dude. Most
Mhm.
paint businesses, if you believe all the stats, have only most paint businesses stick around for 18 months. I've been through about
That's a false stat I heard, but let's not get into that.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, not if you ask Sherwin and Benjamin Moore, because that's when they're
All
around.
right.
So
Um, what ticks you off on social media? You should spend some time on there. I'm sure at some moments Nick shakes his fist at the screen.
yeah, angry humans. I was one of them. I can say all this stuff. I can levy a lot of spicy sort of like complaints about the industry because I've been all of them, man. So
Yeah.
now when you get an angry painter online, who sees what you do and wants to tear you down or fights against other people, and you just think, man, you don't have a family or a business to run. Like what? Come on, man.
You
But
got
that
time for this? Yeah.
as a utilitarian, you think we have so much time and calories to spend on this stuff, and you chose to do this, right? And I have been there. I have done these things.
Oh yeah, we have anger in us. I mean, it's not like an unhuman emotion, and like I don't know if it's something like we shouldn't show on social media.
Well, it's you can I don't mind showing a little frustration, honest
Hmm.
frustration, but just outward anger and just being not nice to other humans is to me it's like, listen, I've done all that stuff before and I don't have any data or feelings to show you that that in any way progresses
Works.
anything
Yeah.
in life. So it's just like as a utilitarian, you just think this better have some good. It doesn't even feel good when you
No,
do it. So
no, I don't. Um, I'm coming up on some like lighthearted questions here. What's your favorite French fry from a fast food company? And don't tell
oh,
me you don't eat French fries, because then I'm gonna hang up right now.
oh no, dude. So, all right. So my wife is one of the best influences on me ever. I grew up with some of the unhealthiest habits on the face of the planet, right? Just horrible, crappy upper Midwest food habits, right? And so we
Potato
don't
hotcakes.
actually we don't eat a lot of fast food. My kids have had McDonald's like once, but I will tell you this. There is people will probably know what I'm talking about. You go to a street fair, you go to a town festival, and there's that Greek stand, that Euro stand.
Yeah,
Whatever the
Euro cents.
French fries that those have, they got the crispy things on the outside. I don't know what
Hmm.
the hell those French fries are, but they're better than anything I've ever eaten before. So
Okay, okay. Um,
I wish I had a picture to show because they're
yeah,
just
no. Next time you're out there, tag me and take a picture and tag me because I
well,
now want to know what kind of French fries this is.
somebody will know because they are prevalent. They have to be ordered from Cisco Food Services or something.
Or
But
something.
I
Yeah.
see them consistently at those Greek gyro stands at town festivals. So
Okay, I'll keep an eye out. Hans Stoot Painting from New York. I don't know if you know him, Warren.
love that guy. Yeah.
Um, he wanted to know what your favorite beard oil is.
Beard oil. So I
Do
am
you use any of that,
anti-beard.
or
I'm anti-beard oil. That is way too fancy. I think it's almost, and this is where I jokingly get a little spicy with everybody, which is, listen, the point of a beard is to not care and be manly. Last thing I'm going to do is perfume it up and rub oils into it and stuff like that. Like it's like, yeah. So I don't look down on those who do that kind of stuff. But for me, it's like, I don't have a
it's not
beard
for you?
comb. I don't have any oils. That's not for me, man.
You just shaved it off, I see.
Just shaved it off. I'm actually prepping to do something very foundational in the life of my kids, which my oldest son now has a little mustache. And I
Ooh,
am going to teach that little man how to shave, something which my father never did for me. And so I'm getting ready to show him how to do that.
okay, like a straight razor, or what are
No,
we talking here?
this is just Gillette Mach 3 Barbasol foam. Like I just want to just the regular old shaving. Like
Okay.
nobody, I had so little parental intervention in anything foundational in my life. First
Mhm.
time I ever shaved, I was 18. I was in basic training and I had one of those Bic with the yellow plastic handles, the throwaway ones like that. And they
And then
just,
with
I
that beard of yours, that must have been rough.
hate them. And it was miserable, man, because in the army you have to shave every day. And that's like the worst thing for a guy like me. I look
Mhm.
like this at 9 o'clock in the morning. I used to get yelled at and had to be doing push-ups out in the concrete because people think I forgot to shave. Anyway, the first day of boot camps, nobody taught me how to shave. So I was standing there with a disposable razor with 100 other guys in the barracks, cold water out of the faucet, scraping that thing against my face. And
Yeah.
my whole face was just opened up. And then you run in the South Carolina woods, your face is full of sweat. And I've never burned my skin more than that. And nobody ever taught me how to shave. I had to teach myself. And that is not going to happen with my kids. So
You touched on the army here. What is like the most? Because you did 4 years, right?
4 years. Yep. Right out of high
4 years,
school.
2 tours.
Yep. Yep.
Both of Afghanistan, or like you went to Iraq, or
No, so yeah, I joined in 2000, which was still peacetime army. 9/11 happened very shortly after, and we
Mhm.
were kind of like I'm thinking I was second or third wave to go over there, but I did Afghanistan first, and I did Iraq, and then I basically timed out of my 4 years. So,
Where was the food better, Iraq or Afghanistan?
oh, say that
Or did you
again.
get any outside food off the base, or was it all like you all
Oh,
get?
for sure. No, I traveled around Afghanistan and Iraq like I travel around Brazil. It's like you find some
Mhm.
locals and you get covert. And boy, listen, a million stories about this stuff, but a couple very foundational ones where um, in Afghanistan, I met some German soldiers, and you can't drink as a U.S. service member overseas. Germans can, however, and so there are tents in the desert. Right, they have a tent right over next to us, and I hear them Helveticizing and singing, and there's a whole bunch of jolly cheering, and it's like, listen, I don't know German, but that's drinking over there. Like
Yeah.
that is, you don't just sing those kind of songs of that kind of voice without that. So I walked over there, and this is still, I was using a lot of tobacco at the time. So like all soldiers, Kodiak
Smoking?
Snuff, Marlboro Reds, everything you could do, man. It's just,
Mhm.
so I'm out there having a cigarette, and I see this big old German officer over there, big guy, Jan. And he's, you wanna ein beer, like that, and I was like, yes I do. I'm Nick, I'm from America, and this is going to be great. So we walk in there, and it turns out that they were a German mine breaking team. There's about 12 of them there. There's a
Mhm.
colonel all the way down to the privates that drove one of those mine breakers that went through the desert and rid the communities of
Yeah.
landmines. And so I became best friends with these guys. I still talk to them to this day. Me and Timo, one of their mechanics, we've even vacationed together. He's a German triathlete, one of the scariest humans on the planet.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was one of those great things where we made great friends over there. We did that. Um, I tell that story because this is something most people have not heard before, but they gave me a German uniform and we went into Kabul and I had my machine gun. I was wearing a German uniform and we went down in there because I told my team that I was going with them on a mine breaking mission and they released me for a couple of days and they thought we were just going to go into the villages and do some stuff. Well, we ended up going into Kabul and I didn't have the clearance to do that. We're walking in the streets of Kabul and we're eating the chickens, with the naan bread and everything else like that.
Mhm.
And there's people from my unit, like some of the brass, the colonels and the lieutenant colonels that are walking down the street and they're starting to lock eyes with me like that. And I am in a German uniform. Like I literally would have been on CNN. That
Yeah.
would have been some crazy kind of scandal, but I was just hanging out with my friends. I followed them around the streets of Kabul. We went into the
Your colonels
European
didn't
gym.
recognize you?
No, it
After
was
locking eyes?
too weird, right? Like you're always wearing Oakleys and you got a German uniform on, and we were locking eyes, but we did have to kind of get out of there a little fast so they didn't see me. And then I also had one of the greatest times ever. I think it was Christmas to New Year's. We spent in the European camp. So there was like Dutch soldiers there, Italian soldiers, Czechoslovakian soldiers,
Mhm.
people, Polish soldiers, and they partied like it was crazy. And they had real food. So you, any European country, when they go to war, they do it way better than us. Some of the best guys I ever hung out with were Bulgarian soldiers. They were dirt poor. Their
Yeah.
country sent them with like World War II weapons with wooden stocks,
Yeah.
old Russian weapons and tents. And they were in the winter in the mountains of Afghanistan, sleeping in tents. But they made their own food. They had meat, they had bread, they had campfires, and we got to party with them for a bunch of days. And it was great. It was just great.
Awesome. Awesome. What is the thing that you took from the military that you put in your business?
Yeah. So people
I'm sure that's
think
very influential, 4 years of all that.
it's influential, but not in the way that people think. People think that discipline, SOPs, and all this other stuff. And like, yes, I was introduced to SOPs,
I'm
but
one of those people.
I was introduced into the worst version of SOPs and the worst version of leadership. And those are the things that stuck with me, which is here's how to not lead other humans, and here's not how to do SOPs because they made, I mean, the army is known for their field manuals, right? And one of the most hilarious ones is a 8-page dissertation on how to fold the sheets on your bed. And at
Yeah.
some point, you're just like, Jesus, man,
Wow.
nobody's going to comply with any of this crap. They're going to laugh at you if you do this. So what I learned was, my company for the winter here, we have 4 SOPs: walls, ceilings, cabinets, and trim. We train the hell out of them. Each one is 1 page. There's pictures, there's videos, 17 to 24 steps per one. That's it. We're not going to have an SOP on how to put your respirator on. We're not going to have an SOP how to drive a van, how to fold a drop cloth. Like there's certain things that you just leave your people alone and let them figure it
out. So a lot of this is like how not to do things.
out. Not
People
to do
taught
things,
you people taught you the wrong way, and you went a different way.
Now, there were times where I saw, when I served, there were still a bunch of dudes from Vietnam some guys were 20 to 30 years in the military and they were still Vietnam era guys, and paratroopers with 500 jumps, combat jumps. That was unheard of. You'd see a little guy with his parachute wings with a little gold star. That means he jumped from a plane into combat. And at this point during 9/11, this hadn't happened. Like there are a couple dudes who did it during the Gulf War, but even that was a real thing. There were some dudes who were like in Grenada, like going into an island to do combat. So I learned a lot what a good leader was. Guys who lead from the front, lead by example. If there's something to do, they're picking up a shovel or a weapon and they're running first, and then they're hoping everybody follows them. That was inspirational. I also learned I was put under the command of a few people who couldn't pass a basic physical fitness test and then would scream at us because we couldn't do things. And I thought, you know what, this is hypocrisy in its finest. Nobody respected this human, and the morale of the humans was very low. So don't ever do that.
Right on. Talking about fitness, a couple of weeks from now, I'll be talking to Orem Painting. I don't know if you know him from Calgary.
Absolutely. Yep.
They do a wonderful thing where they have a fitness coach hired for their painters.
Amazing.
I myself do a lot of yoga or try to do a lot of yoga, feels like it really helps. Is there any program in your company, top down? Hey, do this. Exercise on Fridays.
No.
Kies and brouwen afterwards.
Honestly, I've taken the stance over the years where if you look at 10 to 15 years ago, I got in my people's lives. And if I'm being honest, I don't think people want any of that stuff. There's times where different people want
But
different things.
it's good for your physical well-being, though, to like do a little yoga in the evening, stretch it out. I mean, there are some exercises that you can do that really help us painters. But
Oh, dude,
we're
100%.
standing there in like weird positions for long periods of times. Holding on to every muscle to make that cut in perfectly. It's taxing on the body, and I'm sure like some physical therapy or some yoga could help with it.
Oh
But
no,
you're not going to make your employees do it, huh? I hear.
no, that is a true statement. And honestly, it's one of those things where if they're not already interested or doing it, I'm not going to be the one to do it, because coming from your boss, there's just a lot of people who just at the entry level, at the technician level, just don't take very kindly to that. And I like to have a very deep respect and big wall where, listen, I'll do leadership training. I'll coach you personally. If you want to make a personal budget, if you want to talk about marriage and good ways and bad ways to do that, I'm here for you. But I'm
Mhm.
not going looking for that stuff. Everybody that I employ knows that they can come to me. I've had crying conversations with painters where we're arm in arm standing in the parking lot because something is going on in their life. They know they can do that. I'm not going out there seeking it out. I've always had that kind of relationship with that sort of thing.
Right on. Davor, from those two brothers that paint, wanted to know what you do with all your hunting stuff. Do you like mount your skulls, or you always grabbing something? There we go.
Here's last year's. This one
Right.
is one right from my own farm at the back of the property.
Mm-hmm.
I, I don't like the whole trophy sort of thing. That's not why I do this.
No.
It's the memories. So right over there, I have the arrow from the first deer I ever shot.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hunt a lot. I certainly didn't bow hunt, but I shot a deer at the back of this property before I even lived here. And I was surprised I killed it. I'm surprised I
Mm-hmm.
even hit it. I wasn't a very good bow hunter, but that arrow is sitting there as a reminder, just like Brazil, just like the army, just like business and marriage. You figure it out, man. Figure it out. Nobody's perfect.
How'd you get into hunting?
So interestingly enough, like my father always used to take me fishing, but we never, I mean, we stood on the bank of a lake and caught bullheads once in a while, things like that. Um, uh, my uncle introduced me to pheasant hunting when I was younger. He always had Irish setters, beautiful
Mm-hmm.
dogs. He used to take us out. I just love that sort of thing. But then there's like a 25-year gap where I didn't do anything. And we bought this farm 11 years ago, give or take. And I was just standing around here once in a while. It's like I'm seeing deer and pheasants and turkey and all these critters everywhere. It's like, the hell don't I hunt? I love the outdoors. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just something that I hadn't done. So I just started YouTube videoing, reading about it, getting books, and just
By
trying
yourself.
stuff. Yeah, it's great, and the kids
You
love it.
like the deer meat? Because I
Yeah,
can eat a pheasant, but like deer meat.
dude, I'll cook you some deer meat. So here's the deal. Somebody, Layla Painting just asked, do you eat everything you hunt? I have 100. Well, I did have 155 pounds of venison in my freezer. It's now about
Mm-hmm.
125. Me and my kids eat probably 5 pounds a week of venison, and that's a light week, give or
You
take.
grind it up, or
Yep, neighbor has a meat processing facility in his shed. So
mm-hmm.
when we do the deer, we'll bring it over there, and in 2 hours, a deer can come in one door, and it can go out in vacuum sealed packages, in hamburger and sausage and just big cuts. And so yeah,
Do you
we
mix it with anything, or is it just straight
yeah,
venison?
some of the stuff, like, I prefer just big cuts of meat and then I just deal with it. But if you want to feed a bunch of your kids, you have to make some burger, and you can't just grind up 100% lean meat. So we do actually cut it with beef tallow. It's about 10 to 15% beef tallow. And those are going to
Mhm.
be like, literally, for people who say they don't like deer meat, I'll cook you a venison burger with that. And that thing will blow your socks off, man.
Well, like I've my cousin here hunts, right? I've had bear meat. I thought it was
Oh,
delicious. Bear.
the best.
Never would have expected it. Pheasant, delicious.
Mm.
Deer, Yeah, not so much. But um, what you get for Christmas? Christian wanted to know.
Ha! Okay, this is. I was laying in bed this morning thinking about what a perfect example of my life was the two main gifts I got. One was a new chainsaw because I wear chainsaws out like here like crazy. So my family went and bought me a chainsaw. They even measured the bar on my old one and got the same size so I could use all my old chains, my collection of resharpened chains. And then my wife found one of my favorite artists and ordered me a print of his work. And it's lost in the mail. They're actually working with an
Oh yeah,
insurance company to go get it. But I was laying in bed thinking, this is perfect. I am so proud of this life I've crafted that my kids bought me a chainsaw and a custom print of this artwork. I thought this is just perfect. What a life.
so coming together. You touched a little bit about like I heard you talk about like 3 or 4 mentors. I don't know the exact number here.
Yep.
I'm more of a feelings and not much of a data guy myself. But who are these people? Give them a shout out here because we
Uh,
all learn. Like a lot of
yeah.
people here learn from you, but who did you learn from?
Well, I will tell you what, just like my kids' social security numbers and a lot of things about my wife,
Oh, this
to
is private.
honor
Huh?
to honor them, it's not a secret, but many people in my close circle know who they are and things like that. But I will give you avatars for them. So there's certain things in life that I want to do really well, and I know things about myself now where you have to have certain people to hold you accountable to things. And I found the best accountability partners are ones that you would be super pissed off if you disappointed. So you can go out there and put something on Facebook, say, I need somebody to hold me accountable to something. And somebody will raise their hand that you don't know, probably some sales coach or something like that, or professional,
Mhm.
you know, um, consultant, and say, I can do this for you. But if you don't deeply respect them and think of them as brother, sister, mother, father, grandpa,
It ain't gonna
grandma,
matter.
it's just you're not going to perform that well. So there are certain things like fitness that I have a couple people that I message every day that I deeply respect in this way. There are other people with business and relationships that I deeply respect that we have biweekly calls. There are my series of professionals, my mentor. We meet every single week, give or take. And this is somebody that I hold with so much respect. Like it started off as a coach, like, that relationship like that. And I
Mhm.
believe the definition of a mentor then goes into you would literally be heartbroken if you disappointed this person or they gave you something to do and you didn't. And I've turned it into that, I believe.
Mhm.
And then I have my, in Minnesota, we can't say therapist, so we say performance coach. That's the phrase that I use. But I have a personal and a couples performance coach that I go see all the time just to make sure that I'm being objective and I can serve my family with a solid foundation.
Right on. Good
Yeah,
for you. Good
yeah,
for you.
dude, it's a lot of work, man. It's I spend probably 6 hours a week professionally making sure that I'm beating the hell out of myself to be a better person.
Yeah. No, it's a lifelong journey.
Yes, it
I'm a,
is.
I'm a, I'm a couple years younger than you, but still working on it.
Yeah. It's been a hell of a couple of years though.
Has been. It has been. Um, for our audience sake, I think we should cut it off here. They heard us
Right?
ramble long enough. Um, maybe we should do an episode about just the army one time because I feel like there's a lot more there that we haven't touched on.
Yep.
But you think about that. Maybe you don't want to ever deal with me ever again after this. We'll have to
Dude,
see.
this has been a great conversation. You're really good at this.
Yeah.
And this was an awesome suggestion. And thanks for staying on top of it with me. So this has been a blast, man.
Well, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the balls that it takes to just sit here with somebody and you don't know what they're going to ask. So, yay
Yeah.
for you. On that.
Well, again, the standard operating procedure is it's almost better to just throw myself here and just see what comes. And I get immense satisfaction out of doing this with you and things exactly like this, and that's why it's easy to do Ask a Painter live for almost 9 years because yeah,
Yeah.
you're not going to do this if you don't have a passion for it.
No,
And
I was going to try to go back in on episodes, and then I realized it's over 400 episodes. It's like stupid.
dude,
So I
right
can't do
now
that.
I have a college marketing intern that has been working on, we call it Project Archive. They're going back almost 9 years, and cataloging and downloading and archiving every show. And
Mhm.
there's gaps, right? Because I'm running and gunning when I do this. So part of my 2025 to-do list for Ask a Painter is to have, here is the library, here's the archive, here's a
Yeah.
numbered show list, here's topics. We're going to upload things that have been lost to history. We're going to do all this and
Mhm.
that. And there's going to be one single source of truth for the archive of Ask a Painter. And it's
Yeah.
harder than you think, finding all these shows, man.
I bet it is. Now I looked on Spotify a little bit, and it was hard. There was only a couple on there, and then if I wanted to go on your Facebook, I gotta keep scrolling, and
It's
I
tough.
bet it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Happy New Year already. I hope 2025 is going to be an awesome year for you again.
For you as well.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun, and thanks for everybody watching. I hope you liked it.
This has been great, man. And you know what? If you bug me every once in a while, we should probably make this a recurring thing here, because you are really good at this conversation. And
Oh, okay.
it's a great twist on the Ask a Painter live show as well, too. So no, appreciate the opportunity, man. This is a great
Thanks.
idea.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
like spending time with you on this. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
See you, man.